Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, Real Joe Quinn, episode 885, No Banner 18. There will be no Banner 18 this season in the NBA. We are recording this on a Wednesday, and I apologize for not putting this on my last podcast. When you hear this podcast, the Miami Heat would have probably already eliminated the Boston Celtics in a 4-game sweep and be on their way to the NBA Finals. So, recording this on a Wednesday, Game 4 between the Heat and Celtics is later on in a couple of about 3 hours or so. And by the time you hear this, that series more than likely will be over. Before we get to that, we're going to look back at last night, a historic night for the Denver Nuggets. They were able to take care of business and take out the game. Los Angeles Lakers 111 to 108. 111 to 109. It was a 2-point game, 2-point victory for the Nuggets. You give the Nuggets all the credit in the world because you're talking a 15-point. LeBron comes out with a throwback performance, 31 in the first half. Couldn't do anything. He couldn't miss. Hit threes, post up, just a full barrage of his offensive repertoire. And the Nuggets had no answer. Nuggets had no answer in that first half for him. They go to the halftime down by 15. Take it to yourself. Now, maybe the Lakers have one more game in them to push this back to Denver for a Game 5. As a Laker fan, and I never felt comfortable. Never. I never felt comfortable, even up 15, because of how explosive Denver is. Lakers had 72 points at halftime, and the third quarter was certainly the deciding quarter of the game. Lakers were outscored in that third quarter, 36-16. So they go from being down up 15 to down 5. And at that point, when the Nuggets took the lead in that third quarter, they never surrendered the lead. They were able to hang on. You had Jokic had a big night. With another triple-double, especially down the stretch, just made these impossible shots. Especially a couple three-point shots that were just ridiculous. A couple with LeBron hanging draped right all over him. LeBron did not have the success guarding Jokic in this particular game that he had the previous. In one of the games, I believe it was game 2, where Jokic was like 0 for 6 versus LeBron. But again, that's not a knock on LeBron. LeBron did everything that he could possibly do to keep the Lakers in this game, but it wasn't enough. Denver had too many weapons. You talk about Denver is a complete basketball team, especially offensively. Defensively, they held the Lakers in the second half to just 20. They held the Lakers in the second half in check. Held the Lakers in the second half, but they had 22-16, 38 points in the second half of the Lakers. 38 points in the second half, 36% from the field. So it was the Denver defense, and all the talk goes about the Denver offense. It actually was the Denver defense that turned around the game. I actually thought Jokic had a above average defensive game. He had a couple blocks. Used his body to get, was somewhat of a rim protector in that game. Almost fouled out. So he was more engaged than you see him in defensively. He's subpar. He's not awful defensively. He's okay defensively. Like, he tries defensively, but he's not. He's not. Of course, he's not going to make anybody forget about Bill Russell. But that's not where he's earning his money. This was in the series all around. This was a very entertaining series. Like, the Lakers in In theory, could have won at least 3 of the 4 games. Game 3, they got Denver just hit them with their Denver just hit them with another gear, and there was a gear that they had the Lakers didn't have, and that was that. But even that game, Denver had to pull away in that game in the fourth quarter. This was, I mean, all 4 of these games were decided in the fourth quarter, and you look at the total points in terms of point differential overall. The Lakers were only like a plus 22. That's like what, five each game decided by less than 6 points. So this was a very competitive series. It would not given the feel of what's probably happening with Boston and Miami. That's going to be just a complete, destruction, especially what transpired with Boston in Game 3. But this was a very close series. Again, Denver. I picked Denver to get to the finals, and so I'm not surprised whatsoever. But I did pick them to win in 7 in this series. But they give Denver all the credit in the world. They crossed off every championship checkpoint in each game. You look at Game 1, they almost blow the 21-point lead. They were able to finish, hold off the Lakers when that could have been a disastrous loss to a Laker team that have been playing well. You look at Game 2, they're struggling offensively, especially in the first half. Jokic has probably his worst game of the postseason, yet it was, it was Jamal Murray, it was their role players that held down the fort with Jokic going scoreless in the fourth quarter, and they get by in their defense as well, and they get and Anthony Davis falling apart and only having 18 points, and they win a close game too. Game 3, again, you're up 2-0, you have home court. A lot of teams react. A lot of teams tend to relax, and that's why we see a lot of 2-1 series, especially when the home team has won the first 2 games. Not Denver. They came out right away, hit the Lakers in the mouth, had them on their heels, and Jamal Murray comes out there and with a 30-point first half, to keep Denver keep Denver in the game. And then you have, you had the role players again, Bruce Brown and KCP have big games and played well throughout the course of the series. And even Jeff Green had some big shots. And you had Jokic finishing it off in Game 3 in the fourth quarter. But again, that was a game that a lot of teams lose up 2-0. We've seen a number of series over the course of NBA history where a team gets up 2-0, relaxes in Game 3 and gets their doors blown off. Because usually it's a mentality of all we got to do is get one, go up 3-1 at worst, and wrap it up in 5. And then last night, again, how many teams in Denver learned from their own mistake against Minnesota? They were up 3-0 against Minnesota, played around a little bit in Game 4, and had to play an extra game to wrap it up in Game 5. Game 4, they're down 15. They withstand a LeBron just onslaught, and they were able to hang in there, get a lead in going to the fourth quarter, and hang on for dear life in the fourth quarter. As LeBron was exhausted, and of course Anthony Davis, did Anthony Davis type stuff, which was basically next to nothing. Had a measly he had 21 points, but it wasn't impactful 21 and 14. It really wasn't. We'll get talk more about AD over the course of on the podcast. So Denver, listen, give Denver all the credit in the world. They crossed that. They are a just tremendous offensive team. Jokic, I was texting my cousin last night. Jokic, deservedly so got the MVP of the conference finals, but Jamal Murray was spectacular in this conference finals. You're talking about Jamal Murray was basically 32 and 5 on like 52% from the field and 40% from the 3-point line. Like he was spectacular. Jamal Murray was the second best player in this series. Like if I'm ranking the players in terms of how well it played out, it would be Jokic, Murray, and probably Anthony Davis and LeBron probably were around the same. matter of fact, based off last night, I'd probably have to go with LeBron even over Anthony Davis, to be honest with you. So that was the difference in the series. Denver had more guys that they can go to, and their two best players clearly outplayed the Lakers' two best players. And like when you look at that Jokic, Murray, pick and roll is lethal, and that combination that is right now not two-way because neither one of them are great defensive players, but in terms of offensively, there's not a better offensive combination right now than those two. I would take those two offensively over any twosome duo in the league, even over Durant and Booker. To be honest with you, there's not a better two duo right now offensively in the league. Now, still, despite what happened, despite what's going on in the Eastern Conference, I still for the two-way like Tatum and Brown because they play both ends of the floor at a high level, but offensively, they're like Jokic and Murray are lights out because you have to defend the entire court with those two, and both of those two are very like everybody talks about Jokic's passing. Murray is a underrated passer in his own right. He gets the basketball to the right person at the right time. So Murray's his playmaking is kind of underrated to be perfectly honest with you. And that was the difference in this series to me. Jamal Murray was able to do what LeBron James, I'm sure, is begging in his mind, or probably privately begging one Anthony Davis to do. Jamal Murray was a legit number two, probably even quasi number one A in this series. I could make a case that he and Jokic were 1A, but without question, a star number two. I mean, Anthony Davis. The difference in that Anthony Davis needed to be. The Lakers needed what Jamal Murray did in Game 3, going for like 30 and a half. That's what the Lakers needed from Anthony Davis last night, especially in the second half. First half, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. LeBron has it going. Davis was still defending relatively well, rebounding the basketball. I think he had like 8 rebounds at the half, something like that. Blocked a couple shots. Second half, especially fourth quarter, that Anthony Davis you have to like explode in the fourth quarter. Like you have to take over that game in the fourth quarter to allow LeBron. You have to take over that game in the second half to allow LeBron to catch his breath, so he can have enough in the fourth quarter to close out the game. And that's the problem, and that's why I feel, and we'll get over the course of the off season and certainly podcasts once some podcasts when the NBA Finals is over, in terms of what the Lakers should do in the offseason. But I'll tell you right now, I think they should seriously consider moving Anthony Davis. Like seriously, like right now, think about it. He just went through an entire playoffs without any major injuries. He played well. He played well for the most part of the playoffs. It was about 22 and 14, couple blocks, shot like over 50%. So he had his first great, excellent playoffs since the bubble. Healthy. So his stock to me won't be any higher than it is right now. It just won't. I would move him. Like I just would. I would be off Anthony Davis if I'm the Lakers. Because I don't see him getting healthier as he ages. That's just not going to happen. Guys like Anthony Davis, we see it with like Kawhi Leonard and see it with older players or players who are injury prone. They don't get healthier, especially once they turn 30 and up. So I give Denver all the credit in the world. They were clearly the better team. Listen, what you're learning in these playoffs, and we'll talk definitely about Miami and their culture. You take culture over chaos. Culture is beating chaos in these playoffs. It just is. Like the culture of Miami, the culture of Denver, what they've put together over the last 3 or 4 years, in terms of Miami over the last, since Pat Riley got there, in terms of Denver, really over the last like 5 years or so, they have a culture where it's patience, it's continuity. Yes, they have three. You have three stars. You have two superstars, Jokic and Jimmy Butler, and one budding All Star, a guy who's going to be an All Star one day, in Jamal Murray. And Bam Adebayo has been an All Star before, has been an Olympian. So you have that. He's the number two on Miami. But you have teams that know who they are, and you will take that over chaos any day, and three times on Sunday. Like for all the Lakers, for all the Lakers, greatness in the playoffs and how well they played against Memphis and Golden State, they were chaotic at the beginning of the season. Like the Westbrook, the that whole deal getting started, the 2-10 start, the being under 500 for the majority of the season at one point in 13th place. And again, they make the trades. There's more addition by subtraction, get rid of Westbrook, but you still cannot, you're not going to win a championship when you overhaul your entire roster mid-season. And again, I know LeBron James has done this before, but it has never resulted. I mean, has it resulted in a championship? Even 2016, they made some moves, but that didn't result. That wasn't a complete overhaul of the entire of like this. They made trades in 2016. I get it. They made some trades in 2016 that improved the roster. This was but compared to this was a overhaul of basically, they kept what, three or four guys. This roster was in shambles during the course of the season, and they made the right moves. Even though all those guys didn't play well, they got it. It allowed Austin Reeves to shine. Rui Hachimura played great over the course of the playoffs. Made some big shots. And they allowed, again, it was more about addition by subtraction, getting rid of Westbrook, but they made the right moves. The depth allowed LeBron to be somewhat fresh for the playoffs, despite him having a bad foot. But that's not going to win you a championship. That's not like that. That has you can only go so far because there's no chemistry built in within the team. For the players that you bring in only had so many games together. As in comparisons to a Denver, these guys have been going. These Murray and Jokic have been playing, and Murray and Jokic have been playing together for like 4 or 5 years now. And those pieces, those ancillary pieces like KCP, Aaron Gordon that you bring in a couple of years ago, Bruce Brown that you brought in this year, those pieces are easy to fit. Those are easy fits because those are guys that are glue guys. Those are guys that are going to do all the dirty work. They're not worried about shot attempts. They're not worried about shot attempts. They're not worried about those things. They're going to do all the dirty work, whatever it takes. And again, the main core, that main core has been together for 3 or 4 years. Jokic, Murray, Porter. That's your main core. I mean, you're looking at with Miami, Butler, Adebayo, like a Duncan Robinson. They've been together for a number of years. They know who they are. We have all off season to get into the Laker off season. I'll say this before we move on. Listen, when LeBron James speaks like he spoke last night, says he has a lot to think about in terms of basketball, and then you go Dave McMenamin, I never get his name right. That's been a reporter with the Lakers and also was with the Cavaliers at one point. Basically says LeBron basically tells him that he's pondering retirement. Doesn't use the word retirement, but pondering his future in basketball. Yes, you got to take it seriously. I don't think for a second that LeBron James is going to retire. I'd be surprised, if not mild borderline on being shocked if he does retire. I think LeBron was angry last night. He was emotional. I think that you have a guy, I think that At 38 years old, you have a guy playing almost 48 minutes who knows that Anthony Davis should be doing more, and who knows that and LeBron's is a smart man. We all know who knows that the Western Conference is only going to be tougher next year, and that could have been his best chance to win a championship moving forward. Like this literally could have been LeBron's best chance moving forward to win a championship. Like seriously. So this guy is a basketball savant. He thinks, like 3 moves ahead. He understands all of this. He understands all of this. So I thought that was an emotional, because it came out of nowhere. There had been nothing being talked about possible retirement leading up. If the Lakers lose, LeBron retired. Nothing had leaked out. Nothing had leaked out leading up to this game. So it came out of nowhere. But that to me, I can take it serious. I can only take it so serious because it came right after a loss when your season's over. It was been a difficult, to say at least, difficult. I'm not gonna say traumatic, but it's been a challenging season, physically, mentally, the whole nine for one LeBron James. And I don't think he's gonna retire. I think he wants to play with his son. The Lakers are not that far away. Again, they played Denver, who is the best team in the Western Conference. They played Denver very tough. That series was a sweep, but it wasn't a sweep. It was a very closely contested series, very closely contested. I mean, the first two games in particular, could have went either way. Now, again, Denver deserved to win without question, but those first two games could have went either way. So I don't think LeBron's going to retire. Should be an interesting offseason for the Lakers. I'll tell you right now, I don't want any part of Kyrie Irving as a Laker fan on the Lakers. I just don't see how that is even a viable option if you're Rob Pelinka. Like I just don't. I don't get it. The Kyrie fascination. I know he would love to play for the Lakers. Absolutely, be in Los Angeles. It's not even about competing for titles. It's just being in Los Angeles at this point. I don't want to hear about playing with LeBron. Like, no. So it's just, I mean, he just wants to play in Los Angeles. Maybe, like he can market his brand big. I don't think Kyrie is hell bent on winning. I don't buy that. Or he would have stayed. He could have stayed in Brooklyn. They could have been competing. The way the East fell apart, they could have been competing for a championship with Kevin Durant and with that team they had before they made those trades. So we'll see what happens with the Lakers. Congratulations to the Nuggets as they seek their first ever NBA championship. They will go in as a favorite over Miami. I'm dismissing Boston. Boston has 0 chance. So they will go in to me as a slight favorite over Miami. And listen, I've been hearing a lot of talk lately, especially in the past couple weeks, about Jokic being the best player in the world. If Jokic is the best player in the world, go out there and win the championship. You have probably top to bottom the best team, the most complete team remaining. Top to bottom, or the most together. You want to say Boston has more talent, sure, but Boston is a dumpster fire right now. So Denver is the best team remaining, and if Jokic is that dude, which is the best player in the world, go out there and win the championship. It's just that simple. As far as what's going on in Miami, I've been watching basketball for 35 between 35 and 38 years. What's happening in Miami right now, I just never, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a team look as bad as Miami did during the regular season and just basically dominate their competition in the postseason. Not squeak by, dominate. Like the Houston Rockets in '95, right, were the defending champions. Hakeem Olajuwon was the best player in the world. They added Clyde Drexler at the trade deadline, and that took them to another level. They ended up being a 6 seed, but they were really not a 6 seed as they went through, Phoenix, Utah, Phoenix, and then of course San Antonio, and we all know what Hakeem did to David Robinson, and then of course Orlando. So they went through the gauntlet. and winning another championship. Outside of that, there's been no team that has even like threatened to be world champions that has been anything less than a 4 seed. Like it's like you just don't really. This is something that just doesn't happen. The Knicks in '99 did not have a chance in hell of beating the Spurs. And mind you, that was a 50-game season, so there was only a 5-game separation between the Knicks and the number 1 seed that year, which were I believe was the Miami Heat. I remember that was the Allen Houston shot. They won Game 5 and went on to get to the NBA Finals, taking out Indiana before falling to taking out Atlanta and Indiana before falling to Port San Antonio with Duncan Robinson. But what Miami is doing right now, I just it goes. I like we still surprised, a shock from the Milwaukee series, right? I expected them to beat the Knicks. Um, I thought Boston would win this series, but I thought that because Boston, tends to fuck around a lot, that they possibly could go 7. They Miami has completely taken Boston out of this series mentally, uh, more so mentally than physically. Um, Eric Spoelstra is putting on a coaching masterpiece, and it's just not even a fair fight as far as Spoelstra versus Missoula. It's just not like it's like I mean it's just we're talking about the varsity versus the JV in essence. Like it's just, or a pro versus an amateur in a sense. Like it's just not fair. Uh, the confidence level of that Miami team seems to be at an all-time high. They seem to be connected at the hip. They look They look like everything Boston is not right now. And again, we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Boston offseason. I'm treating this like, listen, all you need to know, and Kenny Smith said it right perfectly. Boston came out in that game 3 like it was already game 4 and they were down 3-0. They did not come out like a team that was only down 2-0. That was down 2-0 in the series. So they came out, they checked out, and it didn't take long for Miami to put them to sleep. And that was that. And again, I don't expect any fight from Boston tonight. Like you think Boston really wants to get eliminated on their home floor? Like you really think, or do you really think Boston has a belief that they can actually come back and win the series? No, and hell no. Their bags are packed. I'm sure as we speak, some vacations are being planned. Whether it's Cancun, San Tropez, whatever, Maldives, wherever. There's some the DR, wherever these players go, LA. The Boston is so done, and I would be shocked if this game isn't like a 25-point drubbing by halftime. It would be just beyond shocked, especially as professional of a team Miami is, and knowing what Denver just did. They don't we know how competitive these guys are, especially the coaches. They don't want Denver to get more rest than them, get that much more rest than them. Denver's already going to get one, an extra night based on the fact that their series ended last night, but they want to get a similar amount of rest as the finals will begin next Thursday, June 1st. They want to get similar rest to the Denver Nuggets. So I don't think Miami's going to play around. I think Boston is the walking dead. And again, I expect it's going to be what Chris Parlow used to say in The Wire when he used to take before he took out one of his victims. I'll make it quick and clean. That's what I think this is going to be tonight. Speaking of it, let's stay on that theme of the Miami Heat. In terms of the Heat culture. So we've seen just numerous coaching changes over the past last 5 years in particular. We've seen general managers come and go, presidents of teams come and go, philosophies come and go, styles of play come and go. In Miami, it's Harrison, Riley, Spoelstra. And that's been That's been ongoing for since Pat Riley got there. Spoelstra is going to be Pat Riley's successor, and they'll keep chugging along. Like you think about what they've done. Remember, Miami came about the same expansion year as Charlotte in '88. So that's been what, that's 30 35 years. So Miami's been around 35 years, and they in that 35-year period, right? 3 championships in that 35-year period, and most importantly, there is a way that they go about doing their business as far as accountability, as far as identity, and everybody knows when you get to the Miami Heat, like there's they have like a fat index in terms of weight, like they measure body fat. Like your conditioning there, it's not like like a Joel Embiid would be like he would be dying in practice because they like no, you out of shape. That doesn't exist with Miami. The guys don't get out of shape. They don't go like that, or they don't play, or they get called out. Like that. Like that just doesn't. That's just a part of culture. That's just what the culture is. Like Eric, think about Eric Spoelstra. Eric Spoelstra right now, pound for pound, to me is the best coach in the NBA. LeBron James wanted Eric Spoelstra out that first year in Miami. Pat Riley was like, nah, he's our coach. Go chill out. And that was that. That's a culture. Players don't go to talk to Pat Riley over Eric Spoelstra. What? What? That just doesn't happen. And that's the regular in the NBA. A lot of these places have to leave. That's the regular. Yes, the star player, or forget about it, even the 6 or 7 man off the bench, second man off the bench will go to an owner or a GM over the coach's head. That does not exist in Miami. And I think that, Golden State has been the model franchise over the past decade. Look at the last 20 years, the Lakers have won a number of titles. From 2000 to 2020 with I think the Lakers have six titles during that time span, and Shaq and Kobe and all, Shaq, Kobe, LeBron, now the late great Kobe Bryant, and they've been the more prestigious as far as marquee and attention. But as far as like infrastructure, culture, consistency, they don't do rebuilds. Like they don't do rebuilding. They reload on the fly. Like there's no tanking. Like nah, that's not how they they're not cutting that off. If they have some bad seasons, it was just that they happen to just be bad. Like before Jimmy Butler got there, they had a couple seasons following the that Dwayne Wade team in 15, 16. So 16, 17, 17, 18, they had some bad seasons. Had a couple of bad seasons. 18, 19 as well. But then they got Jimmy Butler in 2019, in 2019, and the rest is history. They've been finals, they've been in the playoffs or the finals ever since. So what they're doing right now is, like I said, that is a team, that is a model team, a model franchise in terms of that is how the infrastructure of your franchise should be built, holding people accountable. That they are the blueprint for it, 100%. The blueprint. And again, they haven't hit on, like, you think about how they hit on now. They hit on Bam Adebayo and Hero, those 2 draft picks. But they've had misses. They've had some misses on free agency. Like Justice Winslow was a miss in draft. Tyler Johnson was a miss. Hassan Whiteside was a miss. eventually was a miss. At first he was a surprise, then he became a miss. So they've had some misses, but it didn't last long. Like whatever messes they made, they cleaned up quickly. And they are 48 minutes away from another finals appearance. And I'll tell you what, I'll tell you what, and you know, I'll give a preview of this, in a couple of days on my on on the when we do a podcast coming this weekend. They they will have every, like, you as a Miami Heat fan, you should have every right to feel like you're going to win this series. They that is a borderline toss up series. I can make a case it is a toss up series. Outside Joker probably would lean towards Denver because they do have the best player, but not by a lot. It's not by much. Is what Jimmy Butler is doing is otherworldly right now in terms of how he's played in the postseason. Not by much. It's not a big gap playoff wise between Jokic and Butler. They will be right there in that series. Now I would expect that series to be a big time classic series. Two excellent coaches. They will have the coaching advantage in that series. They will have experience advantage in that series. So they will have two of the three advantages that you like going to the finals. You want the best player, but if you don't have the best player, you'll take the experience, and you'll certainly take the coaching, the better coach. But as far as the Heat, if you're trying to replicate it, now again, Pat Riley is Pat Riley. He is a generational executive culture builder. Like that is like Pat Riley is Pat Riley. But the point is, you want stability in your organization from the top down, to where your owner, general manager, and coach are all one. And too many of these places around the NBA, there are too many voices. You have too many owners that you have situations where the owner is going directly to the coach, the general manager, or the general manager is not connected to the coach. It's just you got a lot, or the coach is being viewed as being disposable. So you know what, we get rid of them. Players don't hold the players accountable. Who has to go with the coach. That doesn't exist in Miami. And Frank, I don't think it ever will, as long as you have Riley and Spoelstra being a part of that organization. So Carmelo Anthony retires after 19 years. Anthony in terms of just NBA, if I don't include ABA, is ninth all time in scoring. If you include the ABA, he's 11th all time with over 28,000 points. We know the Olympic deal as a gold medalist. He of course was a perennial All-Star and led his team to the playoffs the first 11 years of his career. Top 75 player. Certainly will be a first ballot Hall of Fame. Very interesting. When I was thinking about Carmelo's legacy and what he's meant to the NBA, I guess he will fall under, like, I never thought Carmelo was going to be an all-time great. I never thought Carmelo. I think Carmelo, as far as getting the most out of his ability, achieved probably maxed out his skills. But there are some what ifs with Carmelo, right? There are a couple of about 3 what ifs with Carmelo. So I'll deal with this. What if, by the way, he doesn't get enough credit as far as his complete basketball career. He did win a championship as a freshman at Syracuse. Like I hear people just completely dismiss that. Like, as a freshman, he wins a championship, and he comes in the NBA age 19, dropping 20 right away on a team that went to the playoffs. So I think his shortcomings get layered. He gets knocked too much for his shortcomings rather than for some of the things that he was great at, and some of I think he's kind of the way his career ended. He especially with Portland and Oklahoma City, he's kind of like an easy target. But this guy had a hell of a career. Like there's all there is to it. Like he had a hell of a career, and you know, you make top 75 of all time, and deservedly so. Like that, that's that's not easy. You're considered one of the top 75 players of all time. You're doing something. But I wonder if any of these three what ifs would have happened, how we would view him. First, 2003 draft. What happens if the Detroit Pistons draft him with the second pick instead of Darko? Mind you, 2003, Detroit, that was going to be the year, that was the 2003 2004 year they won the championship. All those guys, Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, Richard Hamilton, were under 30. They were all in their prime. They were in the midst of going to 6 straight conference finals. You put Carmelo on that team, he doesn't have to start. He could have been like instant offense coming off the bench. Like he was like as a rookie with Denver, he was putting up numbers on a playoff team. So it's not like those stats. It's not like he was an empty numbers guy. No, 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 no. He's put up numbers on playoff teams. His teams, like I said, his teams went to the playoffs the first 11 years of his career. You put him with that culture, Carlisle at first and Larry ended up with Larry Brown and just those veteran guys that they had on that team and how tough they would have won another championship, if not two, with him. Like seriously, like that is to me that is the biggest what if of his career. If they draft him instead of Darko, I mean, who knows? We would look at his career completely differently because he would have a championship. He would have multiple championships. They would have won that first year, 03, 04, well, for sure. And they would have won another one, at least two. They would have won minimum 2 championships with Carmelo Anthony, if not more. The second one, what if Carmelo, what if the Knicks wait until Carmelo becomes a free agent in 2000? What if they wait until he becomes a free agent instead of trading all those pieces to get him? So the Knicks got rid of Gallinari, Wilson Chandler, some draft picks, and a couple other people. And like there were like 3 players that they got rid of for Carmelo Anthony. They traded a lot of people for Carmelo Anthony, and the team. It took a couple years for the team to fill out. They never were able to build a championship caliber team around him because of all those pieces they had. They had to give up. Imagine if he signs with them as a free. If they the Knicks wait until he becomes a free agent and then signs them and still able to keep some of those pieces. Now again, they didn't have you know Stoudemire was that that was going to be that with Stoudemire, like that Stoudemire was going to be hurt. Like as I look back at that team, his first year in New York was 2011. He got traded mid-season. That roster was not, that roster, Raymond, you're talking about that. So they moved him. Yeah, that roster was not filled out. Like that roster was not filled out. But again, they make that move, and the roster it was too thin. It was just flat out too thin. But that roster was just too thin. So the third one, right? And this is one that he's been criticized for over the course of his career. So we all know that how close uh, he is to LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul, the Banana Boat, Chris Bosh, and what have you. So when LeBron, Dwayne Wade, all those guys were plotting to join up together, they had set it up to where in 2010, they would become free agents, right? So they had a 3-year out. They signed the extensions in 2006. They had a 3-year out to become free agents in 2010. Carmelo did not have an out. He signed a 5-year, $80 million extension and took all the money. Now, instead of Chris Bosh for that, the big three in Miami, it was supposed to be Wade, it's supposed to be LeBron, Wade, and Melo. It turned out that from a fit standpoint, I think that Bosh was a much better fit as a rim protector and a big man. But to me, there's no question that I can't. You'd be hard pressed to think that if you add Carmelo, that first of all, LeBron can play with anybody, but that they would have won at least one championship with Carmelo. Maybe when Wade starts falling off, maybe Carmelo becomes that second guy, and maybe Pat Riley would eventually move Wade and then add some pieces around prime LeBron, prime Carmelo. But maybe LeBron stays in Miami and he's the number 2 behind Anthony's the number 2 behind LeBron for the next 3 or 4 years. But at that point, at worst, he's the second best. He would end up being the second best player on the team that won a championship. Because remember, Wade had 2 good years with LeBron, and after that, the wheels fell off. Like 2010, 11, 2011, 2012, Wade was at an all-star, all-NBA level. After that, the wheels completely fell off in the 13 and 14 finals against the Spurs. 14, Wade was like a corpse in that series. And he wasn't very good in 13 series finals either. Carmelo was on that team. Carmelo at that point was absolutely in his prime during those particular years. He would have been the second best player on that team, especially in 13 and 14, maybe even 12. And they win one of those championships. They probably win one of those championships. So just a couple, when you think about Carmelo, think about some those 3 what-ifs, especially the first and third one. With him, possibly being if Detroit would have drafted him, or if he doesn't, or if he aligns his contract up and have the opt out and joins LeBron James and Dwayne Wade as a big 3 instead of Bosh, Wade, and James, or James, Wade, and Bosh. Again, but Carmelo was a lethal scorer. The thing about, he came along. He's underappreciated somewhat because he came along. Think about the era he came along with. He comes in the same draft with LeBron James. That's number 1. Number 2, during his particular career, you're talking about Kobe was still at the top of his game. You're talking about Shaq, Duncan, Garnett. There were a number of stars and players who were just better. Dirk Nowitzki, like they, it's not like he wasn't forgotten, but he came along at a time where you just had a number of guys that overshadowed him, or that were just better than him. And I think somewhat we forget in the moment, especially we forget just how talented of an offensive player that Carmelo Anthony was. And probably, like I said, that stat where making a team, taking your team to 11 straight playoffs, or teams that you play on to 11 straight playoffs, that should not be shunned upon at all. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. No real thoughts tonight, this evening. I feel like I've exhausted my thoughts with these NBA finals. That's going to wrap it up for this program. I will have this podcast up tomorrow. So again, I'll repeat it. When you hear your podcast, Boston, Miami, Game 4 will be complete. I will see you. You will hear from me later on this week. We will preview the NBA Finals. We'll start discussing some off season things for the NBA, especially with the Lakers and Celtics. Because listen, the Celtics are going down tonight. They're going down, and both those teams will have a number of question marks in the offseason, especially the Boston Celtics. Have a great rest of your evening. So long.